I bet you want to know how she got that far. I bet you want to know how she got that far. What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from BackMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and this is Firebrand. This is an independent-ish film. It's roadside attractions and vertical entertainment. Roadside doesn't make their own movies, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say it's somebody made this and it got picked up. So um, it does have audio description. I found this in the Apple Store with audio description. It's done by a company I've never heard of before, like Point uh, something Productions, Point Mountain Productions, or Point Top. I can't remember. I was like, what? I love when like a company just comes in out of nowhere. I'm like, who are you? Where did you come from? And I blown away. I was like, what is this? What is this? What is this magic? We have so many audio description companies already, and it's just like another one. Somebody started up their own. So we'll get into it. Um, I've got a black baseball cap on backwards, black sunglasses. I'm wearing just a red plain red shirt. I look like I'm gonna be killed off in Star Trek. So yeah, this is about Catherine Parr and Henry VIII, played by Alicia Vikander and Jude Law. I liked this. I did. I found this engaging. I found their performances to be really strong. This doesn't quite have the critical reception, but I don't give a shit. I never do. I will love a movie that everybody hates, and I'll hate a movie everybody loves. Um, this is the story of Catherine Parr. It's not perfect, but Alicia Vikander. We see her at a moment when Henry VIII is off somewhere doing some stuff, and he has given her the regent title in his stead to rule, and so she's the one in charge while he's outside of the castle. And we see her sort of there's a movement in England that appears to be people realizing that the church has too much power over them because the Bible is in a language none of them can read, and they should have the Bible translated into a language that they can read, and it's about accessibility of religion. It's very interesting, actually, when you really think about it. However, the film only kind of glosses over that, and it doesn't really go into it. It's just kind of like we watch somebody kind of talk about it for a minute, and Catherine's kind of watching them from afar and is like, I don't know about this. But that's kind of like the one thing about the film that doesn't quite work is like the politics of it, and dropping us kind of into the middle of this moment, and isn't really a lot of setup as to like what the church is doing at this time. It wants to give Catherine some kind of motivation and like a story of like things that she's doing, but her life, it didn't really need that, because her life inside the castle and her relationship and her dynamic with Henry VIII is interesting enough as it is, because he is so volatile. I remember this is a guy who decapitated two of his wives before her, so she has like a pretty high chance of being killed off. But she is trying really hard not to be, and puts up with all of his stuff and the weird sex scenes and everything that she has to do with Jude Law to try to get through this film. This is for anybody who doesn't know, who hasn't. I was referencing at the top was 6, so I will say that because of the musical 6, the whole time I knew Catherine Parr's fate. So I was never really worried, but this film did a really good job of making me worried about somebody who I historically knew the answer to, which I thought was one of its strengths. Like, Jude Law is so vicious in this. So delightfully nasty, that you do believe. You're like, maybe they're gonna rewrite history here. Shit, maybe Six got it wrong. I don't know. I don't. It's just, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't survive. Who knows? So yeah, always a possibility. He's got other kids around that are hanging around, waiting to rule, but it's always going to be about obviously a male heir or female heir, whatever. It's he's uh, at some point in the film she might be pregnant, and he's like, it's got to be a boy. It's so he's all about heirs, and that's kind of his whole story, is about who's able to produce heirs to the throne for him. And yeah, so it's a very uh, back and forth between these characters, and he might just pop off at any moment. Little things. His legs are like infested with something. I don't know. I mean, like the description about the pus and like the open sores and everything, I thought was really good. Also, the audio description here, I gotta give it props for, because I was just watching like the Decameron, which is done by Diffuse, and they, I don't think they knew that they were in period times. Like they didn't know. They were like, this is, I don't know. And so they would say things like fancy dress. But here they like describe like colors along with something. So if somebody would be wearing like a purple coat, or a green dress, you know what I'm saying? Like people actually, like, it actually gives you more. Um, and I appreciated that, instead of just being like, oh, they're wearing clothes. And of course, the linens, they look through the white linens because she hasn't had her period, so they're looking for the proof of that in the linens and from her maidens or whatever, to see whether or not she's lying. There's a bishop here. I want to say it's a bishop level religious figure who is also terrifying because he's so clearly has it out for Catherine Parr, that I was just deeply concerned for her in that regard as well. I was like, oh my god, girl, this guy, like, if you get power, as soon as you kill him. Like, be like, I don't know, man. I saw him with the goats, and what he was doing was not good. Just because I say something, it's just feel like he's gone. Um, yeah, he's working against her also is this religious figure who's got Henry's ear, who's constantly like whispering because he thinks that Catherine's going to be bad for the church, which she is, because she believes people can read or should be able to read. In a weird way, this is sort of about being able to read the Bible. So, and these people are like, no. Could you imagine what would happen if we? Yeah, they would. I guess you wouldn't be able to play your BS games anymore. You'd actually have to, I don't know, do your job, but you say you're doing, which is actually translate text and be there for more purposes. Anyway, so yeah, I found it interesting, and I think the acting's really good. I'm immediately putting Alicia Vikander and Jude Law onto my lists for acting. Like, we'll see if they stay there, but I thought these were two very strong performances, and I just don't know why people aren't quite latching onto this film. Um, doesn't seem to be trying to get awards. It's just kind of released in the middle of nowhere with very little fanfare. And to be fair, critics were just kind of like lukewarm on it. So I don't know why. I liked it. I can see the flaws. And like I said, the flaws are, you drop us in the middle. We literally just kind of like wake up in this time period. and there's like a political climate. And the best thing that I was able to pick up was it seems to be about the ability to read the Bible and writing books and stuff like that. But it's like a very thin thread, and it's almost like if we had just stayed inside the castle and had this dynamic between Catherine Parr and Henry VIII and the kids and the bishop and all the other people who keep coming in and out and Stuart and stuff like that, that we would have had a better film that isn't trying to kind of say something, kind of like step a little bit outside and say something that it doesn't fully commit to and doesn't fully wrap its brain around. Like it doesn't fully grab onto that concept and take it in. But the performances here are the reason why you would watch the film, and just in general, I have to give it again kudos for because the believability here was I actually believed a character that I know historically does not die, might die. So I know this is kind of a spoiler, but again, history. It would be like if you were watching Titanic and James Cameron did such a good job that you were like, maybe the boat's not going to crash. You know, like they're like, I can see New York, and you're like, oh my god, are they gonna make it? And then like out of nowhere, like the iceberg just hits them, and you're like, oh no, they didn't make it. You know, I don't know. It's just, it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, history, weird. You know how it happens, and then, yeah. Um, so it's not really a spoiler. Uh, it's check this out. I think it's better than it is. But I can't I can't give it the full whole milk grade here. I have to give it the skim, and because I can recognize that there is sort of this like external political thing that they only kind of lightly graze. So I'm gonna give Firebrand an A-, but I think it's powered by two fucking fantastic performances, and I wish more people would talk about them. Alicia Vikander and Jude Law are both tremendous in this. So the rest of the cast is really good, especially the guy who played the bishop. I probably should have looked him up because he terrified me. I was like, oh my god, he's so scary. They picked one of those guys who's like really good at being a villain, and they were like, go all in, and he's like, yes, sir, I'm gonna do it. But he has like a different level than Jude Law's character, who just he can bring it in, and he can be somewhat normal and sweet or jokish, you know, and then just like explosive in another moment. He's just volatile, not necessarily 100% evil all the time. The bishop felt like 100% evil all the time. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.